I, 54-year-old man, am married to Liv, 46-year-old woman. We have a 6-year-old daughter and have been together for 12 years. Liv is my second wife. I married my first wife, Anna, 57-year-old woman, when I was 21. Anna is French, and we met when I was in France for a holiday. We have 2 children, Sophia, 30-year-old woman, and Matteo, 27-year-old man. Anna and I were married for 8 years and had an amicable divorce, and I am on good terms with both of my children and Anna, and I see them often. I then moved to the US, where I met Abby, 48-year-old woman. We were together for 5 years, not married, with 2 children, Jake, 20-year-old man, and Leah, 16-year-old woman. I cheated on Abby with Harper, 35-year-old woman, and had a daughter, Maddie, 15-year-old woman. Harper and I stayed together for 2 years, but we eventually amicably split up. I moved back to Europe, so I bought them a house as well as providing financial support. I see Maddie in person twice a year, and we talk every day. My split with Abby was messy. Abby told me she didn't want me in our children's lives, and I didn't fight her very hard on it. I keep in touch with both of them, and Abby and I came to an agreement where I don't pay child support but instead pay for school. I agreed. I also give them both a generous allowance and expensive gifts for birthdays and Christmas. I'm aware it's a poor substitute for a father. After we split, Abby married Cole, 51-year-old man, and had Ryan, 12-year-old man. From what I've heard from my kids, Ryan is the golden child of the house. They aren't mistreated by any means, and from what I can tell, they like their stepfather well enough, but if there is an argument between Ryan and either one of my kids, Abby and Cole will take Ryan's side. Abby has always been a reckless spender. Now Abby and Cole are struggling financially, and she has asked my kids to chip in. I have more than enough money, so I had no problem increasing Jake and Leah's allowances so they can help their family and keep some for themselves. Abby called me out of the blue a few weeks ago, and this is where I might be the AH. She fought with Jake when he refused to use his allowance to help pay their mortgage. I told her that since Jake is no longer living with her, he has no obligation to pay for her house. She then demanded that I give Ryan an allowance as well as Jake and Leah. She told me that I wasn't allowed to financially support Jake and Leah without also including Ryan because he was feeling left out. I told her to F off, and that I'm not going to stop supporting my kids just because she can't support her own. I told her that I'll still pay Leah's tuition, but I'm stopping her allowance so Abby doesn't get any money. Both of Abby's parents called me to say I'm an AH for not stepping up and helping my kids, and Cole also called to scream at me. I had to block their numbers. My family reassured me that I'm not the AH, but I'm not sure because I feel guilty that Leah's the one who suffers. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So when you were 40 years old and had a 15-year-old daughter yourself, you impregnated a 20-year-old? Comment 2. What the hell did I just read? You're the jerk, YTA, for not getting a vasectomy. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around after my last post. It's been a wild couple of weeks and I've got quite the update for you all. So after I blocked Abby and Cole's numbers, things seemed to quiet down for a bit. I thought maybe they'd gotten the message and were going to back off. Boy, was I wrong. Jake and Leah were both pretty upset with the whole situation. Jake's been trying to become more independent, and he's been doing a great job. He's got a part-time job while he's in school, and he's been really responsible with his money. Leah, on the other hand, was caught in the middle of this mess. She's still in high school, and without the allowance, things were getting tight for her. I decided to have a sit-down with both of them. We met up at a local diner, and I laid it all out. I told them I'd continue to pay for Leah's tuition directly to the school, and that I'd help Jake out if he ever needed it, but the allowances had to stop. They both understood where I was coming from, but Leah was visibly upset. I felt like the worst dad in the world. A few days later, I got a call from Anna, my first wife. She'd heard about the drama from Sophia and Matteo and wanted to offer her 2 cents. Anna's always been level-headed, and she suggested I set up a trust fund for Leah that Abby couldn't touch. That way, Leah would have some security for her future, and I wouldn't have to worry about Abby misusing the funds. It was a brilliant idea and I got to work on it right away. Meanwhile, Liv, my current wife, was being a rock through all of this. She's been so supportive and understanding, even though this drama was taking up a lot of our time and energy. Our daughter's been asking questions too, and we've been doing our best to explain things to her in a way that doesn't put anyone in a bad light. Just when I thought things were settling down, Maddie called me in tears. She'd had a huge fight with Harper about something unrelated, and she needed to vent. I did my best to comfort her, and it made me realize how much I missed being there for all my kids. Maddie's always been mature for her age, and she gave me some advice that really hit home. She said, "Dad, you can't fix everything, but you can be there for us. That's what matters." That conversation with Maddie made me think a lot about my relationship with Jake and Leah. I decided to reach out to Abby again despite everything. I wanted to try and mend fences for the kids' sake. I sent her an email explaining my decision to set up the trust fund for Leah and that I was willing to discuss Jake's situation too. Abby responded quicker than I expected. She was surprisingly calm and told me that she and Cole had been going through a rough patch financially and that it had put a lot of strain on their marriage. She apologized for lashing out at me and admitted that she'd been unfair. We agreed to meet up, just the two of us, to talk things through. The meeting was tense at first, but we eventually found some common ground. We both wanted what was best for Jake and Leah, and we needed to work together to make that happen. Things were looking up, and I was feeling pretty good about how maturely we were handling the situation, but then the twist came. A few days after our meeting, Jake called me, sounding frantic. He'd overheard a conversation between Abby and Cole that turned his world upside down. It turns out Cole isn't actually Ryan's biological father. Abby had an affair around the time Ryan was conceived, and Cole had been raising him as his own without knowing the truth. Jake was in shock, and so was I. This revelation explained a lot about the tension in their household and why Abby had been so desperate for money. She was trying to keep this secret buried. I didn't know what to do with this information. It wasn't my place to tell Cole, and I didn't want to put Jake and Leah in an even more difficult position. I decided to keep it to myself for now and support Jake and Leah however I could. The trust fund for Leah is set up now, and Jake's been doing well with his job and school. As for Abby, we're keeping communication open, but it's definitely strained. I'm just hoping that for the kids' sake we can keep things civil. Life's thrown me some curveballs, but I'm learning that it's not about the mistakes you make. It's about how you handle them and move forward. And right now, moving forward is all I can do. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. Hey there, it sounds like you've been juggling a lot with your blended family, and it's commendable that you're trying to support your kids while setting boundaries. It's tough when ex-partners make demands, but you're not a bottomless ATM. Setting up that trust fund for Leah is a smart move to ensure she's taken care of without the funds being misused. It's clear you care deeply for your children's well-being, and sometimes tough love is part of parenting. Hang in there. Comment 2. I get where you're coming from, and it's a tricky situation. It's great that you're thinking of your children's future with the trust fund. Maybe consider family counselling to help Leah and Jake navigate the complexities of this situation. It could provide them with the tools to handle the emotional stress and maintain a healthy relationship with all parties involved. Remember, it's not just about financial support, but emotional guidance too. Good luck. Now for the next story. We are both in our late 20s, both have always worked full-time. I am in a high-paying job making $150,000, and my wife is in a lower-paying job making $40,000. Finances have always been mixed, but we were able to save $2,000 to $3,000 per month without really trying. My wife was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago. She has since been cured, and the oncologist said she would still be able to work. However, she quit on the spot and insisted that we move to the other side of the country to be near her family. Since then, my wife has recovered well. Instead of doing the job she was trained for, she has decided to work only 2 days a week as a librarian. I encouraged her to do so, just to get back into work. Medically, she has been absolutely fine for 18 months. Our finances have taken a hit. Not only are we paying more in rent now, but we are also paying private school fees for our kids. It all adds up. I have stopped buying any luxuries, but my wife refuses to adjust. She goes on overseas yoga holidays about every 3 months and buys herself so many new clothes, while I haven't bought any new clothes for myself in at least a year. She complains about how expensive our kids' lessons are, but then goes to the store and buys herself an expensive bottle of champagne to cheer herself up. I feel like nothing more than an ATM to her, and I'm sick of it. When we were both working, we had an equal say in our finances. Even though I earned multiples of her salary, we both put in equal effort at work and at home. It seemed to work fine. But now she has chosen to work only 2 days a week and earn about $9,000 a year, and I can't help but think that she is choosing to rely on me instead of going out and working. This morning I received a notification from my bank saying that $500 had been withdrawn from our account by an individual. When I asked her about it, she denied any knowledge. I told her it was not a problem and that I would call the bank to report it as a fraudulent purchase. Then she confessed that she had actually bought herself a customized leather jacket. I expressed my frustration with her spending habits and told her that she doesn't earn enough to afford such things. Her response was, "Well, your salary can cover the bills and then I would have enough money to buy that jacket." I told her that I wasn't her dad, her salary wasn't her pocket money, and that I expected her to contribute her own money to our bills. I never used to have a problem with her spending when we both worked equally hard, but now I'm really struggling not to be furious with her every time she makes a lavish purchase that only my salary and my continued full-time effort can afford. I feel that if she wants to earn less than minimum wage, then she should act accordingly when it comes to spending. I expressed this to her mother, and I was told that I was being a jerk. So, am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Tell her she has to go into therapy. I think that her cancer diagnosis brought the inevitability of her demise to the forefront. She is overcompensating with all the things you say she is doing. She can't live like this. Good luck, not the jerk. Comment 2. Not the jerk. This isn't fair to you. Either she needs to work full-time or adjust her spending. I doubt she will, though. I would personally look at what a divorce would cost. Life is too short to live it as a human ATM. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a wild couple of weeks since then, and I've got to say things have been interesting. After the whole leather jacket incident, things got pretty tense at home. I tried to sit down with my wife and have a serious talk about our finances, but it turned into a huge argument. She accused me of not being supportive of her recovery and said that I was trying to control her by holding the money over her head. I was just trying to make her see that we can't keep spending like we used to, but it didn't go over well. The next day she apologized and suggested we try couples counseling. I agreed, thinking it might help us communicate better. The first session was rough. We both aired a lot of grievances and I felt like the counsellor was siding with her, telling me I needed to be more understanding of her emotional needs. I was frustrated, but I kept going because I wanted to fix things. Meanwhile, work was getting more stressful. My boss noticed I was distracted and pulled me aside to ask if everything was okay. I didn't want to get into personal stuff, so I just said I was dealing with some family issues. He offered me a few days off to sort things out, but I declined. I couldn't afford to take time off, not with the way our savings were dwindling. At home, things were up and down. Some days my wife would be her old self, laughing and joking around. Other days, she'd be distant and spend hours on the phone with her mom or sister. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, never knowing which version of her I'd get. Our kids started to pick up on the tension too. They asked why Mommy and Daddy were always talking in serious voices. It broke my heart. I tried to shield them from it as much as possible, but kids are perceptive. Then, about a week ago, my wife came home with a brand new laptop. I was floored. We definitely hadn't budgeted for that. When I asked her about it, she said she needed it for a project she was working on. I didn't want to start another fight, so I let it go, but it was eating me up inside. The turning point came a few days later. I was at work when I got a call from the school. Our son had fallen off the playground equipment and needed to go to the hospital. I rushed over there and thankfully he was okay, just a sprained wrist. But when I called my wife to tell her what happened, she didn't answer. I left several messages, but she didn't call back until hours later. She said she'd been at a yoga retreat and hadn't checked her phone. I was livid. Our son was hurt and she was off doing yoga. That night we had the biggest fight we've ever had. I told her she was being selfish and irresponsible, and she accused me of trying to make her feel guilty for taking care of herself. We didn't talk for 2 days after that. I was sleeping on the couch and thinking about whether our marriage could survive this. I was at my breaking point. And then yesterday, she sat me down and handed me an envelope. Inside was a bank statement. She'd been secretly saving money from her part-time job. She told me she'd been feeling guilty about not contributing more financially, so she'd been putting away whatever she could. The account had nearly $5,000 in it. She said she wanted to use that money to pay for our son's medical bills and to start contributing to our expenses again. I was shocked. I didn't even know what to say. All this time, I thought she didn't care about our financial situation, but she'd been trying to do something about it in her own way. We talked for a long time after that. She admitted she'd been feeling lost since her cancer diagnosis and that she'd been spending money to try to fill that void. I admitted that I'd been too harsh and that I hadn't considered how her illness had affected her emotionally. We decided to start fresh. We're going to keep going to counselling and work on rebuilding our trust and our finances together. It's not going to be easy, but that envelope was a reminder that we're both still trying, and that's worth fighting for. Now for the comments. Comment 1, oh honey, you're not an ATM, you're a whole bank at this point. But seriously, it's time for a come to Jesus talk with your wife about budgeting. Cancer is a beast and it's great she's better, but your wallet needs some TLC too. Maybe introduce her to the joys of thrift shopping. It's like a treasure hunt, but for your finances. Comment 2, been there, mate. My partner had a health scare, and afterward, it was like money burned holes in their pockets. I get it, life's short, but so is the rent deadline. We sat down with a financial planner, made a game plan, and it saved our bacon. Maybe give that a whirl before the piggy bank cracks. Now, for the next story. My 3-month-old son is sick for the first time. It's 9 p.m. and suddenly my husband gets up and opens the front door, and his friend walks in. I asked why there was a person in the house, and he said his friend had to pee. This wouldn't be an issue if it weren't for the fact that my breast was out from nursing our sick son to sleep, and we have 4 dogs. They of course bark and wake the baby up. I gave my husband a look that would have knocked him dead if looks could unalive, and when his friend left I said, I think it goes without saying never do that again, as I'm rocking our now awake baby. My husband goes, if someone needs to use the restroom, I'm going to let them. I responded, he literally had to drive farther to get here than he would have to stop at a gas station. Based on where we live, no matter where his friend is coming from, this is true. He said, it's not my fault that the dogs barked. I said, but it is your fault there was someone in the house to bark at, or at a minimum, that they weren't outside when that person got here. He just responded with, sounds like a personal problem, and went back to his game. I was annoyed about my sick baby being woken up, but now I'm sitting here fuming that I couldn't get even an, yeah, I'm sorry, that was a bad idea. But maybe I'm the a-hole for being annoyed it happened in the first place. What do you all think? Am I the idiot? Updated. This got more attention than I expected. Edit. I spoke to my husband again, who clarified the friend was already coming over to pick something up. He asked her to use the restroom once here, and it put my husband on the spot. Due to this, I did apologize for the misunderstanding on my part, thinking my husband gave him permission to come inside in advance without giving me a heads up. I told him I still wish he would have put the dogs outside, but I can see how the question took him off guard, and he just did the nice thing and said yes without thinking what would happen next all the way through. I also told him that all would have been only slightly annoying, had it not been for his remark afterwards. He has sort of apologized for that, but I think at this moment, I think he still feels wrong by my reaction overall, and just isn't quite there yet. He did acknowledge it was disrespectful, and that he would be mad if roles were reversed. And finally, he is not dealing drugs or doing any, good grief, I'm not divorcing him over this, and I sure as shoot am not getting rid of my dogs. They don't bark at any little thing, just people coming inside, and do generally stop on command. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Sounds like a personal problem. What is he, 15 years old? I'd be handing the crying baby over to him and saying, this is your personal problem, fix it. Comment 2. I'm sorry, but why the frick would anyone go to a friend's house to take a piss? Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support and advice on my last post. It's been a wild couple of weeks since then, and I wanted to share what's been going on. After the whole incident with my husband's friend coming over and waking up our sick baby, things were pretty tense at home. My husband and I had a few more discussions about boundaries and respect, especially when it comes to our family time and privacy. It took a bit of back and forth, but I think we finally got to a place where we both understand each other's perspectives. The turning point came when our son's illness got a bit worse and we had to take him to the doctor. It was a stressful time, and I think it made my husband realize how important it is for us to work as a team. He started taking more initiative with the baby and even helped me come up with a plan to manage the dogs better when we have visitors. One evening, after a particularly rough day with our son, my husband surprised me by cooking dinner and taking care of the baby while I took a long bath. It was such a simple gesture, but it meant the world to me. We talked a lot that night, and he genuinely apologized for his earlier behavior and for not being more supportive. As for the dogs, we've been working on training them to be calmer when people come over. It's still a work in progress, but they're getting better, and we've agreed that if we have visitors, we'll give each other a heads up so we can prepare and avoid any more surprises. In the midst of all this, my husband's friend actually reached out to me to apologize. He felt terrible about the whole situation and didn't realize I was nursing our son when he walked in. It was an awkward conversation, but I appreciated the apology, and it helped clear the air. Things with my husband have been much better since then. We've been making more of an effort to communicate and be considerate of each other's feelings. It's not perfect, but it feels like we're moving in the right direction. Our son is also doing much better now, which is a huge relief. Seeing him healthy and smiling again has lifted a weight off our shoulders and brought my husband and me closer together. We've been spending more quality time as a family, and it's been really nice. I've also been making an effort to carve out some time for myself. I started a little book club with a couple of friends, and it's been great to have that outlet. It's important to have that balance, and I think it's made me a better mum and partner. Overall, these past 2 weeks have been a lesson in patience, communication, and understanding. My husband and I have learned a lot about each other and how to handle the challenges that come with being parents. It's not always easy, but I'm grateful for how far we've come. So that's the update. Thanks again to everyone who reached out with kind words and advice. It's been a bumpy ride, but I'm happy to say that things are looking up for our little family. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. Oh man, this takes me back to when my sister's kid was teething, and any little noise would set off a wailing marathon. I totally get the frustration with the hubby not getting it. It's like, hello sick baby equals DEFCON 1, buddy. But glad to hear the air's cleared and he's stepping up now. Comment 2. Alright, so the husband's friend is basically a human air horn for your fur babies, I get it. But hey, kudos to you two for turning the chaos into a teachable moment. It's like you've both leveled up in the game of life. Extra points for the apology and the surprise dinner. Keep on keeping on, and maybe invest in some doggy earmuffs, eh? If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.